Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live today. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a great session lined up for you today. We'll be talking today about the intersection of food and family history, and we have some fabulous guests for our session today. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. For those of you who are still joining, please let us know in the comments where you're joining from. We'd love to hear and to see where everybody is tuning in from all over the world. It's a little bit early in the morning on the East Coast in the US, but we wanted to make this time when also people from other time zones could join as well. Maybe we'll see some viewers from Australia with us. We'll have to see if there's people from that side of the world as well. So thank you everybody for joining us. Today we'll be talking about the intersection of food and family history. So great topic. It's just so exciting. It's a great topic to talk about at this time of year, especially how in the United States this week we have Thanksgiving coming up, and also all the holidays coming up at the end of the year. So a lot of opportunities to discuss food, family history, genealogy, our favorite topics here at MyHeritage. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll be giving away a DNA kit at the end of today's session. So in order to join our giveaway, just let us know in the comments section about a recent discovery or tool at MyHeritage that you've used that has been successful. Just write us in the comment section and we'll be giving away one free MyHeritage DNA kit at the end of today's session. Talking about DNA kits, the MyHeritage DNA kit is on sale for the cheapest price ever. It's $29 US. Best price ever, Black Friday deal on the MyHeritage DNA kit. So it's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of our Black Friday sale. Stock up on DNA kits, a perfect gift for the holidays. Now is the time if you want to get them in time for the holidays at our lowest price ever, $29 US. We'll be putting a link in the comments section as well, so you can purchase your DNA kits from there, myheritage.com/DNA. Take advantage of this sale. It is really our best price ever. So don't let it slip away. So that was just a little promo for our best sale that we have on right now. So definitely do not miss out on that. In addition, I want to tell you about a new feature that we just recently released just now, our brand new feature, Live Memory. Here, I'll show everybody just a little promo for it. Live Memory is so exciting. It's available exclusively on the MyHeritage mobile app. It enables you to turn any still photo into a short video clip using AI technology. It animates the scene in the photo, reimagining it as if you had traveled back in time to watch it live. It's the ultimate way to reminisce. So you can see here in this photo, the little kid who's, the still photo is the little child playing piano, and then you actually see it happen. Some amazing examples here of this new feature. It's really incredible. You could download the MyHeritage mobile app either on Google Play or in the App Store and try it today. So definitely take advantage of that. And I'll just show you, I have an amazing example of my own grandparents. You can see this is an old photo of my grandparents at their wedding, walking down the aisle. And after I animated it using Live Memory, let's see if it works. Oh, I don't know if we can see it, but let's try again. There you go. Walking down the aisle, just so meaningful, such an amazing memory to see. So that's really exciting. Okay, so now I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome our guests. We have with us Lisa Lisan. Lisa is the genealogy expert behind Are You My Cousin, a website and YouTube channel designed to help genealogy researchers around the world grow their family trees without the overwhelm through hundreds of genealogy articles, YouTube videos, and international speaking opportunities. Lisa shares research strategies and how-to genealogy tutorials. So she's an incredible friend of MyHeritage, and we're so happy to have her with us today. And before I bring her onto the screen, I'll also introduce Ashley Covelli, who is the food photographer, recipe developer, and culinary instructor behind Big Flavors from a Tiny Kitchen. Together, they produce and host Passing the Plate, a podcast that explores the intersection of family history, cultural heritage, and culinary traditions. Their mission is to help listeners preserve cherished recipes and the stories behind them for future generations. So let me bring them both onto the screen so they can say hello. Let's see, it normally takes just a second for them to get the hello. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Hi. So good to see everybody this morning.
Yeah.
It's so great to have you both here. This is such a great topic and one that I just love talking about. Food really brings us all together and is so meaningful in so many cultures and families. So it's a great discussion.
We've had a lot of fun talking over the years about the food and the intersection of our two businesses that we do together. And so it's really, Ashley is the one who came up with the idea of we need to do a podcast. So that's how the podcast actually started.
Yeah, we knew that they worked together somehow and we could collaborate. And it just took us a while to get there because we've known each other for a long time. So, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, well, if you'd like, we can bring up your slides.
Sure.
Here, let's get them in here. Okay, so feel free to take it away.
All right, wonderful. Well, guys, we are really excited to present this webinar to you today on family history, on documenting family recipes and sharing some tips and tricks with you along the way to be able to do this in your own family and to preserve your own family recipes for future generations. Now, Jonathan Safran Foer, he's a noted American novelist, and he stated that food is not rational. Food is culture, habit, craving, and identity. And true, food is an integral part of our personal heritage and, well, the heritage of our communities. The foods that we prepare and eat, they actually tell a story. And these stories reflect who we are as individuals and where we have been. We eat to honor and reflect the stories of the past generations as well. So by the time we're done with our short time together today, Ashley and I know that you will be as excited about discovering and documenting your recipes as we are. So again, we're going to be sharing tips along the way to inspire you in your own culinary exploration.
Lisa, there it is. Okay. We weren't seeing the slides.
Oh, you weren't?
But I see this one now.
Okay.
Technology is lovely.
You never quite know.
Well,
all right, so I'm glad. Okay, let me know if anything goes awry again, just let me know. But anyway, so how did Ashley and I know each other? So we had a very serendipitous meeting online in an online business group way back in 2017. And well, we formed a very fast friendship that has lasted. The business group that we were in actually ended, but we have continued to meet once a month since then, and well, more often than that, really, as accountability partners. And then finally,
Lisa,
yes,
the slides keep on going in and out. Can we just try sharing it again and see if that works?
Sure. Let me. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'll back out and restart it all over again and see how that works. Great. That was very odd because it seemed to be. All right, give me just a minute, guys. Let me get it in the right spot
for you. No problem.
For you guys.
No, it was just for some reason it was going in and out, so we just want to make sure everyone can see it.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on. I got to come back and find you.
I love seeing everybody's from all over the world. This is great.
That is so. I love watching that and seeing where everybody's from. I guess, and I didn't say really where we're from. We're actually from I'm from North Carolina. Ashley, where are you sitting today?
I'm in Ossining, New York, so a little bit north of New York City.
All right, I'm trying to get it. Oh, there we go. Okay. Maybe a half a second or two for it to show. What are you seeing now, Esther?
Let's see. One moment. It looks dark still. We just see an empty square.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let me try one more.
Oh, no.
Oh,
It keeps like flashing away.
it flashed away.
Yeah.
I'm going to try. Let me try it from one other. Really needs to go.
No problem. That definitely is modern technology, no matter how much.
Yeah,
How much
I know this
there.
worked because we. All right, so I've got it. You can share it now. See if it shares up.
Okay. Let's see.
And while we're waiting, if anybody wants to put in the chat a dish that you've either cooked recently or eaten recently that you really enjoy, I always love seeing what other people are up to in the kitchen.
For some reason, it's flashing in and out.
Flashing in and out. One more time. Okay, hang on. I'm just double checking my connections, guys. Make sure everything's still. Hang on one second. Let me check the plug. Hold on.
No problem. Okay. Yeah, and just to remind everyone what we said about the DNA kit, we're going to be giving away a DNA kit today to one lucky viewer. So just let us know about a MyHeritage tool or feature that you've used that has helped you, or if you've used our Live Memory, brand new feature that we just released. We'd love to hear if you were able to use it on an old photo, and if it gave you, what type of memories it conjured for you and your family. So we'd love to hear that. So just let us know in the comments. And here, let's try again. Let's see. Okay, it looks okay for now. We'll let you know if we can't see it again.
Okay, so I checked all the connections before we tested all this, and guess what? I think my cat had actually bumped the plug, and the plug was halfway out of the wall. So technology issues, right?
It's still going in.
Is it still going out?
Yeah.
We really didn't have this issue before, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm not sure what else to change on this, Esther. What are your thoughts?
Or maybe try just from the PowerPoint instead, maybe.
All right. So actually,
maybe that will give us better luck.
Yeah. Let me try one more time on Google Slides. That the PowerPoint may not. Let me try one other thing real quick before I do that.
Sure. Okay.
All right, you guys can talk away for just a second.
Let's see. I see Annie from France, and I see Harvath from Hungary, and Muriel from Sweden. So really, we have viewers joining us from all over the world. We also have the YouTube streaming going as well at the same time. So I see people there from all over. In YouTube, we have Aneta from Lancaster, California. So it's great to see you all joining us today. If you haven't yet, please do let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to see all the friendly faces from all over. We're going to try sharing the screen again and starting a presentation. Just a little bit of, let's see. It keeps, I don't know. I'm not positive.
Not seeing it. Okay. Nope. No worries. Hang on.
I'm not sure why it was doing that.
I'm not sure either. This is not usually what happens.
My live streams are usually from my kitchen, so I don't have those things to deal with.
I know.
Just making sure, everything in the kitchen is agreeing and nothing gets too smoky or anything like that.
Okay. Here we go. Okay.
We good?
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Hold your breath, guys. Let's see what happens. All right. Let me get into the slides where we were. Oop,
There we are.
There we are.
Yay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with
Thank
us.
you so much. Yes, technology just never quite knows. So, yeah, so Ashley and I did meet. We were able to actually meet for the first time in 2019. We actually met in New York City. And of course, we had to eat lots of wonderful foods. And then we actually didn't meet again until 20, well, actually, yeah, 20, a couple years later, we actually met again in Westchester County, New York, up where in the area where Ashley lives. And we had lots of fun exploring coffee shops and local restaurants. And of course, we explored the local historic cemeteries as well, because after all, I'm a genealogy researcher and Ashley loves to hang out on them as well. So we had a lot of fun together. And that's truly the only two times we've ever seen each other in person.
Hmm. Yeah, and we have a lot of fun, very old cemeteries here in New York. So, just a
Yes.
quick note on families. We use the term family here, but it doesn't just apply to people who are genetically related to you. There are all sorts of non traditional families out there. My family tree isn't traditional at all. It includes steps, halves, adopted family members, in laws, friends, and chosen family members who are just as much, if not more, a part of what I consider my family than some that I share blood relations to. So, I mean, the person I call my stepmom isn't even technically related to me at all. Lisa would love to get her fingers on my family tree, I'm sure. But your family experiences build the core memories of the person you are today, and many of those memories really do revolve around food.
Okay, doke. So let's talk food and family recipes to be exact. Now, when I first started exploring culinary heritage, really, there's only one word that really came to my head, and that was cornbread. And I will tell you that one whiff of cornbread today will instantly take me back to my grandmother's kitchen. And it was kind of your basic kitchen. It was shaped like an L. It had virtually no counter space. And what counter space she had a lot of different little appliances on. So there really wasn't much working room to work at all. And I don't really know how she did it, but when the family would come over for family meals, she would make meals full of the Southern favorites. Again, we're in rural North Carolina at this point, black eyed peas, collard greens, turnip greens, mashed potatoes, mashed turnips, lots of carbs, as you can tell, and of course, a lot of sweet tea. But the cornbread was really the famous thing because I would actually watch my grandmother make cornbread, and it was famous, well, in our family at least. And she never used a recipe. It took years for us to finally get this recipe down on paper. But essentially, it's self-rising cornmeal and buttermilk. And that's really not much else in that particular cornbread. But the most important thing, guys, is it had to be cooked in a cast iron skillet. And she was a very tiny woman, but she could handle that thing like a pro, because I will tell you that cast iron skillet you're seeing her pour that into is heavy, very, very heavy. But so why cornbread? Well, cornbread really, when I think about it in terms of heritage, it tells the story of my rural Virginia farming ancestors. Okay, it tells the story of them cultivating corn and milling their own cornbread and using very simple ingredients to nourish their family on a daily basis. And it's prepping this food daily. It's preserving foods in familiar ways. This provides a real connection and comfort to someone maybe who's in a new land. And, my grandmother, and my father would remember as he would watch her cook this and remember seeing his grandmother do this as well. So it definitely brings back that connection. And I will tell you, before, when it came to eating the cornbread, she would serve the cornbread hot. We'd put the butter on it, and then we would say the blessing over the food, because we didn't, we wanted to make sure we had optimal butter cornbread ratio.
I love that. I'm all about that perfect bite. So Lisa was fortunate enough to have a handwritten recipe for this family favorite, and I was really anxious to kind of get my hands on it and see if we could start to analyze what exactly was going on in this recipe so that we could try to recreate it.
Yeah, Ashley, so right. So this cornbread recipe that you actually see on the screen here, my dad actually wrote that down years ago while watching her cook. Like, we were able to take the video. It's early days of being able to take a video on your cell phone when we finally got that recipe down. And to be honest, I'm not really sure it's exact. And so, my question has always been to Ashley is, how is the best way to get the family recipe down when your relative cooks by feel, like my grandmother did, or as I like to say, by heart?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like so many of our family members cooked that way because they weren't necessarily concerned about it being recreated. down the line because they were just the ones making it. But let's talk through some specific tips that'll help you more accurately record these types of recipes. We did do a deep dive into the process of deciphering and analyzing this specific cornbread recipe on episode 2 of our podcast. If anybody is interested, you can go to passingtheplate.org/02 and you can get more details on that. But let's talk about some general tips for recording recipes next. My first big one is honestly, just spend time together in the kitchen. If you're able to get in the kitchen with somebody, it's the best way to document their recipes. A lot of times people will tell you in words what the recipe is, but there are just so many more nuances to it than that. There are things that people do instinctively that don't necessarily stand out to them as noteworthy, but if you're coming in blind with zero previous experience with a particular recipe, you may not know these things, like how to do them, until you actually have seen them live in action or they've really been spelled out to you. You're also going to want to get data into the mix. A lot of people tend to cook by feel or taste versus a structured recipe, and that's wonderful. But cooking is such a sensory experience, and that can add to the enjoyment of it. But if you want to be able to recreate a recipe, you're going to need to really bring some data and measurements into there. So my big tip is be ready to take notes. Get your favorite notebook or note-taking device, use your phone, whatever it is, and start from the beginning. It's really important to make sure that they don't get a head start without you, because you want to observe the entire process from start to finish. Bonus points if you want to set up a camera to actually record the process so you can watch it back later and make any additional notes or catch anything that you missed. For example, that video with Lisa and her grandma making cornbread, I was able to catch a few things that helped me when I tried to recreate the recipe in my own kitchen, and it clarified some questions I had about the list of ingredients. So videos can also be a great memento of your time together. As far as measurements, take notes and measure everything that the person does during their process. If they go to grab a pinch of something, get a measuring spoon or a cup in there and see how much they actually added. A lot of times people say a teaspoon, a tablespoon, a cup, an ounce. It's nowhere near accurate. So you could even have them do if they just want to pinch and throw it into a bowl, just throw an empty bowl under them, under their hand, and catch that measurement. And then you can scoop it up and measure it into a spoon, a cup, or whatever to get the amount precisely. You'll also want to note where you're putting the preparation of an ingredient actually will change the measurement. So for example, if you say the juice of 1 lemon, that can really vary widely. So I've had lemons that have given several tablespoons of juice when they're squeezed, and others barely give you 1. So it'll make a huge difference in your final recipe results. So that's why I always recommend measuring. You'll want to note your prep style and visual cues. So things like size, what shape things are cut into, and visual cues like golden brown, bubbly, or translucent. The size of whole items like fruits and vegetables can vary so much, so it's helpful to include additional indicators for measurement. So instead of saying the juice of 1 lemon, try 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, about half a large lemon. That way it just kind of helps clarify what you're looking for when you go to recreate it on your own. Or like 1 cup of diced zucchini, about 1 small. The same goes for things like canned and bottled ingredients. So saying 1 and then maybe just a note in parentheses, 14.5-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. It's much more helpful than saying 1 can of tomatoes. There's so many different types and styles out there. So specify the size of the can or bottle, indicate the size of the container and style or texture. So things like diced, crushed, pureed, unseasoned, whole wheat, instant, or oil packed. Those are all things that are important to the final result. You'll also want to pay attention to the order that ingredients are added to the recipe. When you're writing down a recipe, you want to write them as they happen so people can follow along line by line versus having to jump around the ingredient list and then you worry about missing something. So keeping tabs on the amount of time that something cooks can also be very helpful. You can note if it needs to come to a boil and then reduce the heat to simmer for 15 minutes until reduced by half. All of those little clarifications can really help a lot. You can just make rough notes while you're cooking together. Just taking the time to notice and record your observations will really pay off when it comes to trying to recreate the final recipe. Afterward, you can go into your notes and expand on them and write them in a more complete, followable format. Really spell things out. Just because you know that an uppercase T means tablespoon and a lowercase t means teaspoon, it doesn't mean that everyone else will. So spell your measurements out. It'll only make things easier to follow down the line. Then once you've documented your recipe, go ahead and make the recipe from your notes. So another day, whenever down the line, follow what you've written down from start to finish and add in any notes or modifications along the way that'll help you become more successful next time. Just keep at it until you're happy with how it's evolved from the memory of making it in the kitchen to an actual tangible written recipe. Collecting this information in this way will set you and anyone else who tries to make your recipe down the line up for success.
This process, when Ashley talked me through it the first time, it is so helpful because not only does it make for a successful recreation of the recipe, we can continue then to pass this recipe down for generations. I absolutely love that photograph of the Covelli generations because, cooking recipes is fun. It's a unique way to meet your ancestors, those previous generations, and it's a great way to connect with your family's unique culture as well. In other words, guys, making family recipes helps us to feel grounded in our heritage.
And the little baby in those photos just turned 13, so my goodness. This memory is so nice to have. So here's an example of a recipe that I had tried to get from my Italian father-in-law for years. His stuffed mushrooms were always such a hit at family gatherings, and they were just unlike any others that I had tried. He and we cooked together often, but whenever I'd explained to him that I wanted to be there for all of the steps for his recipes so I could recreate them, he would inevitably do part of the work in advance. He thought he was being helpful, maximizing our wine drinking time together or just doing some of what he deemed to be unimportant bits before we got together. So I had tried recreating these stuffed mushrooms without seeing his early prep steps, and they just never turned out quite right. So what I decided to do to get an accurate recipe is I told him to come make them at my house. That way I'd be sure to catch every single part of it. And we even did the grocery shopping together, which was just a really nice experience because seeing the type and size of mushrooms he used, why he picked certain ingredients, it was really helpful. And plus we got to spend more time together. Another recipe from my husband's family that we documented together were his great-grandma's Easter cookies. They're a traditional Southern Italian dessert that his family's been making for generations, and they enjoy it at Easter and Christmas. So he had remembered these cookies as ones that his maternal grandma always made, and then through the process of making them together with his mom's cousin, we ended up actually finding out that it came from his great-grandma. So I love that she brought her family recipe book with her. It had all these handwritten notes and food stains just to show how well loved these recipes were.
So I actually love this photograph of the family cookbook because I love looking at the pages when I get an old family cookbook and looking at the ones that have the most drips and the most stains on them, because those messes on the cookbook, they tell us the ones that were the most loved recipes. So by looking at it, we know what was important to them, we know what their favorites were and what they made the most often. So, just as a family historian and thinking through family generations, that family cookbook can be a very powerful piece of information to learn a little bit more about your ancestors on a more personal level.
Yeah, and by making this recipe with someone who had learned from the person who created the recipe, we ended up learning things to look for, like the texture of the dough, and we really got the hang of how to properly shape the cookies. She told us that grandma likely didn't add the juice from the orange when she made them, but we really liked the flavor that adds. So she also did everything by hand, and we've since started using a stand mixer for mixing the dough. These little adjustments don't make it feel like a different recipe, but they do modernize it in a way that works better for us. If you're interested in learning more about adapting and modernizing your family recipes, things like how to adjust the cooking methods, you can check out episode 3 of our podcast.
All right. Now, one of the best parts about gathering and recreating these family recipes, besides eating them, guys, is really capturing the stories behind the recipes, because this is an opportunity for us to glimpse into a relative's kitchen and, well, even the personality a bit. So, and it's really not hard at all. Now, one of the best places to get family stories is, well, at the family dinner table. So anytime the family gathers, whether it's for, just a family meal, whether it's for a holiday meal, such as a Christmas dinner, or here in the US, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, it's a great time to delve into those foods that the family eats or ate in the past. Take a look at that family table. Are there specific foods or dishes that show up every year and only that time of year? Is it a specific green bean casserole that shows up? Or, I know something that I would see frequently would be a tray of deviled eggs. Ask why. Why did those foods show up on the family table? Is it because it's what they had, or is it just something that they took a little more effort, so that was the time of year they made them? But ask the family members that are there. Now, you may not live near family, and you may not have an opportunity to actually attend an extended family gathering or family reunion very often, and that's okay. But you're not off the hook yet when it comes to gathering those family stories around food, because, well, you do have some options. You're just going to have to work a little bit harder, but you can learn a little bit more about the family recipes as well as start to recreate them in your own kitchen. So think about this for a moment. Look at your bookshelves, look at what has come down through the generations. Do you have your grandmother's favorite cookbook, or do you have an old recipe box? Is there like a little church or community cookbook that was always pulled out for certain recipes? These types of, if these were the recipe books that were used, this tells you, again, a little bit about your ancestors' interest. It tells a little bit about maybe some of the causes, if they were, had several versions of, say, a particular community cookbook or a church cookbook type thing. And again, going in and looking at those pages that have the most wear and tear. You're also going to look for little notes that might be in the margin as well, because again, you can see any things that they may have changed, any of these substitutions they may have made, but it's an indication that these are their family recipes, so start there.
I know when I see a little star drawn in a page in one of my grandma's cookbooks, I know that was a real keeper.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because I would see stars in one of my grandmother's cookbooks as well. So it's, I guess, just a common symbol they would use. Now, one of the things, though, when I talk about looking and seeing what were favorite ones, is if you look at here, this is actually a little cookbook that I discovered. It was actually my grandmother's, and when I thumbed through it, I found her lemon meringue pie. I had no idea what recipe she used or where it came from, but I found it, and obviously it's one she made a lot, because you can see all the stains in this particular book. And of course, this is her sliced cucumber pickles. I do remember watching those pickles being made, and it's obviously a favorite. It got damp at some point through the process. And so if you find these in your family recipe files, go ahead and make a transcription of this, which I have done of this, because I want to make sure I capture it before any further damage or fading actually would happen on a recipe card like that. Now, another place to look at. So if you can't visit with family, or if you do, if you don't have many books, another place to look for your family food traditions is really old family photographs. Now, I absolutely love old family photographs, guys. I do a lot of talks about these things, and they tell us so much about our ancestors. And really, even before cell phones, people were taking pictures of their food. Now, maybe not hundreds or thousands like we do today on our cell phones, but they were taking pictures of food at events like family reunions. I mean, you can see those here on the screen with you. You might find photos, say, of a special birthday cake, or you might find photos of somebody winning a county fair for their pickles. So I always encourage people interested in family history, dig into your family photographs. Don't just look at the faces, look at the entire picture as well. So enjoy. I definitely want you pulling out those old family photos.
And absolutely ask questions about the food in those photos. I mean, the slide has photos from both of our families. And when Lisa first showed me that photo on the top left, I had a lot of questions.
Oh, she actually really loved that particular photograph. And I've got some really cool things to show you about that particular photograph. So this photograph actually, the original was in black and white that you just saw, and it was taken around 1946 to 1947. And the occasion was an annual birthday gathering for the gentleman right here. Okay, so this was, my great-great-grandfather. And so what I did is I took the photograph and I actually used the MyHeritage photo suite of tools, and I colorized it, and I did the enhancement as well to kind of sharpen some things up and get a little bit better glimpse and really just a different view of the photograph so that I could actually analyze what was happening on this table. Now, the thing about this particular photograph, and those of you, as we are genealogy researchers and we're looking at family photographs, we might find photographs like this in our family box, the boxes of the family photos. And by any standard, this is not a particularly good photograph, right? And for us today, we take them pictures so frequently, we would actually probably just delete this photograph out of the phone, right? So I don't know what the exact intent of why this particular photograph was taken, but I'm so glad that it was. I'm so glad that it wasn't thrown away. And there's a lot of genealogically relevant information on this particular photo about family, but we are really only going to look at the table down here and the food on this table. This is a very typical family gathering with like a buffet style table that would have been laid out for this particular family. This photograph was taken in rural North Carolina on a farm, a small farm, nothing grand or big, just a really small farm. And what we see here actually is on the left, we see fried chicken, which was a very popular dish that would show up on the family tables for the large family meals. You might not be able to tell, but this is actually white bread, sliced white bread. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, they would actually have like a loaf of white bread, the sliced white bread on the table. So that was there. And again, not everything is going to be always immediately obvious why it's there. Sometimes it's just, well, that's just what they like, so they had it. So we keep that in mind as well. As you come across, you can tell me it is, again, not a great picture. It's overexposed down here at the bottom, but you see the place. We see this jar here. This is actually a jar of pickles. Now, the coloration came out a little different on this one, but I happen to know this was a jar of pickles for this particular table. There would have always been like sliced pickles, dill pickles. They might have done sweet pickles as well a little bit later. Probably not these, because the sweet pickles would have required too much sugar, and this was really right at the post-war time period. So we would have pickles. Would also commonly see, I've seen in other photographs, other canning type jars. So I would see squash and I would see green beans in those as well. Then we have a large pot here. In some families, I actually thought this originally was actually going to be more of a stew, like a Brunswick stew, which is, think of like a thick vegetable type of stew that we eat here in this, oftentimes in the Southeast. But for this particular family, because this was a large gathering, this is a very small house, this is actually a pail of water. All right, so they would have actually brought water up from the well and brought it to the table. So that would have been what was there on that. Now, I actually found that out because my mother told me about that, because I wasn't 100% sure, but we'll come back to that in a second. But moving on down, we have the glasses. We would probably have some iced tea in here as well. And there's a white cake over here as well that we would oftentimes see, just a basic white layered cake for this particular family would have. So because we liked our desserts, right?
When you're looking at old family photos like this, if you're able to ask people who were there what was on the table. You can't sometimes tell what a dish was, especially in older photos. I was with Lisa. I had thought this bucket was soup, but yeah, if you can find somebody who was there, they might be able to kind of clue you in.
Exactly. So most of my photographs, to be honest, I don't have somebody to ask, and it was a number of years after finding this that I did ask my mom. But this is actually my mother here. She is the little girl here in the picture. And when I asked her, she was only about 5 or 6 years old at this point. So what she told me was she didn't remember this particular actual event, but she was able to confirm what I was seeing on the table, because again, the photograph's not great, but then she was able to tell me a little bit more that this was more of water that they would have used for this particular photograph.
And then another thing to consider while you're reminiscing about these family gatherings is incorporating those special dishes, like say that white layer cake on the end there, into meals outside of just holidays or special occasions and gatherings. I mean, why save them for once a year? personally, I am good with having deviled eggs any time of year. And, pickles also delicious.
I am too, just so you know. um,
So, Anthony Bourdain, who's noted chef, author, and travel documentarian, stated that food is everything we are. It's an extension of nationalist feeling, ethnic feeling, your personal history, your province, your region, your tribe, your grandma. It is inseparable from those from the get-go. So we
okay.
really challenge you to get in the kitchen with a loved one, document those recipes while exploring the history and the stories behind them.
Yeah, so we are super excited to be able to talk with you guys about our love of family history and how it connects with food. And so this has been a passion that Ashley and I have been exploring some time together now. So we do have the podcast Passing the Plate, and we would love for you to take a listen at some point. Just so you know, we have an upcoming next month on December 19th. We have Daniel Horowitz from MyHeritage is actually did an interview with us. And we are going to be talking about delis, traditions, and genealogy, uncovering Jewish culinary roots. So we'd love for you two guys to tune in to that as well. And we'll head over and come over and have some questions with you. And guys, thanks for bearing with me on the tech issues that we had.
Thank you so much. What a great session. And I loved that photo and being able to dissect every single item in the photo.
It's a fabulous photograph. And, we were obviously talking about the culinary aspect of it, but that particular photo has for genealogy researchers, there was so much in that photograph from a socioeconomic standpoint, and really diving into some of the the social history around what was happening in that area. So it's a really cool. Photographs are amazing records of so much of our ancestors' lives beyond the faces.
And it's been fun working on this project with Lisa to kind of look at either photos or recipes or just cultural dishes from each of our perspectives, because the questions she has as a family history expert and the questions I have as a recipe developer, sometimes like the other one of us would never think of it, and it kind of leads us to appreciating them in new ways or uncovering something that we might not have thought about before. So it's been a really fun way to kind of dig in to those topics.
Oh yeah, we had fun with that cornbread recipe. When she started analyzing it, she goes, the directions are, cook till brown. Well, I kind of know what that looks like. She goes, but what is brown? Is it dark brown? Is it light brown? Is it? I'm like, I don't know, just brown.
Yeah.
And Lisa, you really gave me a lot of food for thought, when we ask our elderly relatives, questions about their lives. And I never thought of asking, what was on the table at a typical, dinner or at an event or, things like that. And it's something, you would ask, what was your first date, or how did you and grandpa meet, or things like that. But the food questions are also so important and really give us a lot of context about their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It does, and it really opens up a conversation, and I think that is such a powerful thing as well. Ashley and I've talked about that. Not every food recipe on the table is going to be historically relevant from a family history standpoint, but that's the cheese ball that Aunt Violet always made. Well, we it's not a family recipe, but it was her recipe. And so it always brings up and starts those conversations. And, next thing you know, my son or daughter will be going, well, but who was that? Who was she? And so then we can, build on that as well.
Well, thank you both so much. And I really appreciate you coming and being on our session today. And thank you to everybody in the audience. We're giving away a free DNA kit to Jenny McKay from the audience. And Jenny wrote to us and said she tried the Live Memory, our brand new feature. She said she tried it on a picture of her mother as a 3-year-old with her doll standing behind her dad and mom holding a baby. Mom was hopping around with her doll and Pop and Nana were laughing. It was so cute. And Jenny's tuning in from Western Australia. So Jenny, congratulations, and we'll be in touch with you regarding your prize. Thank you to everyone for tuning in from near and from far. And don't forget, our Black Friday deal on MyHeritage DNA kits is on now for $29 US, best price ever. So definitely take advantage of that. And thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you for
we had such a
having
great
us.
time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye, everybody.